Start the morning right with a cup of Vinyl Tap. Nothing beats the refreshing taste of a hot, warm mug of Vinyl Tap. Enjoy your podcast in liquid form today. Vinyl Tap. Enjoy responsibly.
Vinyl Tap. I'm Habibi.
I'm Habibi.
I am Habibi.
We just listened to Walk Among Us by the Misfits. And, well, what was everyone's opinions?
It was pretty good.
Yeah?
It was
Yeah.
punk.
It was
Yeah.
punk.
It was a lot of punk.
It was a good way to start the morning.
Yeah.
I think good punk, though, should be a lot of punk very quickly.
Yeah, well-
That's its hallmark, right?
Yeah,
Yes, that is a very punk trait.
It doesn't dither around.
Yeah.
It's like, alright, here we go.
Is what we came to do. See you later.
Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of, it's like the wall of sound for the entire album.
Yeah, there was a 2-minute song on this album that I thought was going on for quite a while.
Yeah. Yes.
On that wall of sound note, there's very little textural change.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a very punk thing.
Yeah.
But it's very much, okay, we're all in. Maybe the vocal will drop out for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Or maybe there'll be like a 2-second solo.
Yeah, the
If
solo.
you can call it that.
The solo is just boost the treble on
Yeah.
your, and then just play the one note,
And then
like
bring
2
it back
bars, and
down.
then just bring it back and
And
straight
that
back
one
into
note was the tonic of the harmony.
it. Yeah.
So, like, it's just...
So you didn't like it
But
then?
because nothing else changes, really the only thing the solo offers is like a tone color change, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. Like, there's no melodic or harmonic difference. It's literally just changing the sound very
There's
little, very briefly.
Also,
It's interesting.
at least from someone who's not well versed in punk, very little structural change.
Mm-hmm.
It feels often like it's just chorus after chorus, and it's potentially, I've got a few notes, it's either going to be like there are verses,
Yeah.
and they just go by so fast, and they're not like harmonically different, or there's no textural differences to kind of distinguish them as separate entities from the choruses.
Right.
Minus the fact that the vocal hook isn't there, and it's just other words.
Right. I could easily distinguish between verses and choruses, I found. I mean, maybe that's just because I've listened to it so much, but I think you're right, there isn't any textural change or harmonic change, but the melody is what carries through. You know, they're like really nice, simple melodies, and
They have wonderful hooks.
yeah,
They've got very sing/shoutable hooks,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is what you want for a punk song.
yeah.
Something a crowd could just
Shout
shout.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like recorded in the early 80s,
Yeah.
so this isn't necessarily about sitting down as an album listening to it.
No.
Like, this is the thing that you'd want to go to a show and
Experience of the show.
experience.
Well, then, like, the question then is, why even release an album?
Oh, because that's what you do.
Yeah.
Are there any particular songs that you want to get into here?
I've got a couple. Do you have any?
You
questions?
go ahead.
I go ahead. I turned into a Martian.
Yep.
There was a couple of songs on this album that I definitely heard before. I feel like this was one of them. And I don't know where or what context. I assume that you've maybe shown it to me at some point.
Maybe.
And that's maybe why. I really did like the hook in that one. The whoa.
Yeah.
Which I think is also a very punk trope type of thing, to have like woes that are kind of descending or held across. And I know you could say that. Like,
They're not always necessarily descending, that like it just jumps around because there's on the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Da, da, whatever that
but
is.
I feel like there's a bit of a default, at least across this album, to yell, we'll sing woe, and hold it across.
Well, it's so...
It's not across this album, it's across the
punk.
genre.
It's across the genre.
Don't you think?
Yeah. I don't... So this is very horror themed. The entire album is
yeah.
horror themed. And there are multiple moments in this song as well. There are like moments where it's almost like wolves howling. And I think almost that would be intentional.
I'm
that-
sure it's intentional, and I'm not necessarily knocking it and saying it's a bad thing. I'm more just pointing it out as something that I noticed as a like first time listen through, that seemed to be like a repeated thing throughout the album.
Yeah, I think from compared to music of the other time, I think this definitely has a lot more of it, I would say. That kind of, call out and response sort of thing. I would say, this has definitely more than maybe what their contemporaries would have.
Okay.
Right.
The other thing in that song was, it was one, if not the only song with a solo that's like very clear cut is a solo.
Yeah.
That lasts for all of about like 2 seconds, but was also, I know we're only 2 songs in, but it was just kind of like a nice change.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't...
Did it really have that many notes in it though?
No.
It was just like
it was like 2 bars and 2 different
just
notes.
A textural and tonal shift for a little section. It was like just like a little kind of like, and this is gonna make me sound like I'm knocking punk, which I'm not, but you're coming up for a breath of air before like diving back down into it.
Yeah.
Because I do like punk music, but I don't think I could sit there and like listen to an album or listen to it like punk for a whole session, because it is very,
it's just
driving and thick and continuous, and there's no kind of reprieve from that.
Right, so something I realised while listening to this album is I don't think I like punk. I just don't think it's for me. I just think that constant attack, the like defaulting to woe. I know that's not like emblematic of the entire genre, but it is a thing.
Yeah.
I just think it doesn't really do it for me. The constant rhythm, harmonic rhythm's pretty much constant across the album, like chords. Oh no, that's not entirely true, where chords change at different paces.
Yeah.
Harmonically speaking, this actually has more going on than most punk I've heard.
Yeah.
And there are actually a couple of songs that I'm like, oh, that sounds like pop punk, like harmonically.
Right.
What was it going to be? There was one that's literally just 1-5-6-4. It was Skulls.
Skulls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, this is just like a generic chord progression, it was weird to me, because usually I hear that chord progression and I'm like, oh god, not this again. But then in this album I was like, oh, something I know.
Yeah. Skulls is a really interesting one, because it's the first time where I think there's, the melody becomes almost, like it slows down. It's the slowest melody of the whole album.
Yeah.
It's almost got like a double time feel to it. And it's very kind of haunting is the best way to put it. And like it's also the first time the vocals change tonal quality. So it's not just kind of yelling or that kind of
like that didn't even, it was not on my radar at all.
Really?
Not at all.
I wrote down for that song that it was more melodically independent of the harmony, where throughout the rest of the album was basically the vocals were just singing the root of the chord.
Right, yeah.
Can I expand on that point as well?
Sure.
The more interesting songs for me were when, for the hook, the rhythm would change, and often the rhythm would line up with the vocal rhythm.
Yeah.
Like in Hate Breeders, there was that like Triceo kind of rhythm that, like, and again, it was like variation. It wasn't just da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it had like a little bit of a change or a break that made that bit stand out, but also made the other stuff not just like, okay, this is very similar to what we've already got.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was my favourite song on the album.
I think Hate Breeders was my
great song.
Was my favourite song.
And again, there's pretty basic harmony going on there, like nothing too special, but it was just like throughout the rest of the album, it's kind of like the riffy harmony.
Yeah.
Where the guitar's moving up and down, and like it's more of a scalic motion instead of like direct any harmonic function. Whereas this actually does have that, and this is 1-5-6-3 major, so it's C, G, E, A minor, E, which is like whoa, like it just kind of pulls that like. This music doesn't seem concerned with like scales or key at all,
definitely not.
Perfectly fine.
Hate Breeders is my favourite song. I really like the melody is very separate. It's very distinct, I think, from the other tracks in this song, where it's kind of it carries its own melody that's separate rhythmically, and that hook is so good. And I really love they have heaps of harmonies in their hooks where there's 3 or 4 independent vocal parts going on.
I was almost singing the same thing.
Ask you about this as well. Did they use more expansive harmony in Hatebreeders compared to other songs? Because it stood out to me in this...
You mean vocal harmony?
Vocal harmony. Because it stood out to me in this song, but not in pretty much any of their other songs.
I mean, it was existing in most songs.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more of a thing in this one. Harmony... Yeah, it kind of does use vocal harmony, but I think more fun. Something that I brought up in the halcyon days of Vinyl Tap and thought I would never get to talk about again is heterophonic texture, where
yes,
yay,
shots,
where 2 or more players are doing the same thing but slightly different. One's like ornamenting it in a different way to the others, and that's exactly what's happening here in this course. And there's not like a decision to yes, we will use heterophonic texture here. It's like, no, we're just going to sing, and I just want to sing it a bit differently.
Yeah. Actually, jumping on the heterophonic point, I think probably the worst song on this album, Braineaters, which is the last song, is just that. It's basically a drunk football anthem where everyone just gets together.
I actually really liked it.
Really?
Yeah, just because I thought, this is stupid.
Yeah.
It's a silly little...
Like, as a musical...
Like zombie football riot.
Right, yeah. As like a musical listening experience, it's like... It's hard. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I would say so. Compared to the rest of it.
Contextually, not really. Like, if I was presented that as an isolated song, I'd be like, what are you showing me?
Right.
But I'd say, like, thematically across the album, it's perfectly fine. I really...
Okay.
I don't know... I feel like there's a story in this album, but I didn't get it from one listen through. And it feels like, thematically and musically, they all belong together. And probably in the order that we were given, but I couldn't tell you why.
Right. I don't have the answer to that, so...
That's fair enough, but it does feel like there's been thought into...
Yeah. As an album, it's very cohesive. As an album,
it's cohesive and makes sense going from one to the other, and I feel like changing the order would actually affect the listening, whereas sometimes other ones it wouldn't, so...
Yeah. What are your thoughts on thematically being kind of traditional sort of horror, like lots of gruesome details, and I mean the first song 20 Eyes about having 20 eyes in your human face, but coupled with major tonality and really like boppy kind of upbeat melodies.
Just screaming about it.
Yeah, because these guys are sort of the pioneers of that kind of trope, right?
Yeah, I feel like we're somewhat, not oversaturated, but it's not like that out of the ordinary for people to take something and juxtapose it musically to what it is lyrically or thematically. Like, the one that comes to mind whenever we talk about this is always Pumped Up Kicks.
Right.
That's just so boppy and happy, and I know it's not punk, but if you contrast it to what the lyrics are actually talking about, there's like such a... Like, they don't match up at all. But as a song, it's still, people really like it. So I don't think there's really any issue with...
It didn't strike me as strange at all.
Yeah.
Right. I honestly did kind of find it a bit strange. I don't know... It's like rock horror picture. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
It's like...
I could definitely picture like one of these songs being that.
Yeah.
It's a bit too early for it though.
Yeah, and it's quite I don't know, for me that was a bit not jarring in a bad way, but just jarring, I would say.
Okay. I think it's fine. I think if I thought about it, there'd be other examples, and it's something that does happen every now and again. And people can still have hits doing that kind of thing as well. I don't think it's that, like, it might have been unusual at the time back then. I don't know off the top of my head if there's anything before that, but in general.
I mean, I know that their their Halloween shows were legendary.
Sounds good.
And they're basically one of the first people to put horror into music, and they really played that up. I don't know if you probably have seen the Misfits skull because it's a pop culture icon.
Again, I know and have heard Misfit songs before today. Like, this isn't who is this band that you're showing us? Yeah.
And that imagery is very distinctly them. I don't think that had really happened before.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Devil's Whorehouse. Again, one of the better songs, I think, because of textural differences.
Really?
Yeah.
When
that really... I really, really like the bass line. And when it drops out of that chorus and emphasizes the bass line.
My single note for this song is yikes.
Oh, man.
I was not into it.
Right. The song made me feel, and I don't know why, because I know Misfits are American, but it just made me think of the Mighty Boosh.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I was just like, it sounds like a song that Noel and Julian would have written.
Right. The bass line, it was distinctive to me because it was just so simple. It was just walking kind of in step fashion, you know.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. I think that's Devil's Whorehouse. And it's sort of, not a lot of the other songs have the bass kind of doing that. Usually the bass is just...
And I think that's why I probably enjoyed it, because it was a change and a shift, and it made it stand out on the album to me.
Right, that's interesting. So I think the melody in the chorus, one of the weakest ones across the whole album, which is why I don't really like it. It's not very interesting.
I couldn't look into it at all.
Yeah, there's no... It distinctly doesn't have that kind of yelling chorus that you can just sing along with, and it distinctly kind of has
it's
a
the
pretty monotonous...
least punk song on the album, is what you're saying.
Maybe?
And put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, like...
What else would it be, though?
Well, so Mummy, which is song 7, that's...
a good one.
I think that gives a really nice cross-section of, like, what's going on at the time. There's, like, a real hardcore element where it's just a brutal wall of sound. It's just... The guitar doesn't even have a distincting... You can't tell what is guitar and what's just the noise happening from it.
I'm not sure if it was because this was a live version.
Yeah.
I really didn't like this one because of how muddy it was, and I'm not sure if that's because of the recording of it live and technology back then, or if it was an intentional thing and that's how the song's meant to sound. But the muddiness and losing all the bass and guitar into one, and basically only being able to distinguish the vocals and the drums, I wasn't a fan of it. There was like one part at the end, like I guess you'd call it an outro, where there was clarity between the bass and the guitar. But the rest of it, it was just...
Yeah, so I would say that's... Oh, I love that feature of it. Like, that's when it's just that kind of huge wall. And you can hear the drum just smacking, one and two.
You can get a huge wall without losing clarity and not making things muddy and muddled.
Yeah, but the clarity... Like, the muddiness...
Punk isn't about clarity.
No, I know it's not. But it just... In all their other songs, you've still described it as a wall of sound, but you can still distinguish between the bass and the guitar for the most part.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, this is a different song, sort of, to the rest of the album, because punk will have its own sort of things. That hardcore sound, which is just that kind of, it is a wall of sound of indistinguishable, just noise, and the lyrics are just being yelled at you as fast as possible. I
don't like it.
So I feel like this one was my least favourite one on the album because of the muddiness. It's not one that I could go, oh yeah, that's fine. It'd be like, this grates me.
Interesting.
I think I don't like this kind of punk in general. Like I didn't hate the album at all. It was perfectly serviceable. Great way to start the morning. But I just don't like being yelled at.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not just the vocals yelling at you; it's the whole music.
The whole
yelling
music.
at you.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common theme for people who don't really like the music.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be yelled at for 30 minutes. I sort of find the experience though cathartic. It's like when I listen to this, I really like listening to it when it's loud and it like runs through your whole body.
Yes,
it does your heartbeat for you.
But the issue is that we were sitting down and taking notes.
Well, yeah, but even when I was taking notes,
I
was still getting the rush and just letting the music sort of flow through, and then you're done. It's half an hour. You've just had your full, like, all of your anxieties wiped for the day. You're pumped and you're energized.
This music takes away anxiety for you?
Yeah.
Two things I want to contrast, like, yelling at you with is rock wailing.
Sure.
Which I know that you like, and there'd be a bunch of people who are like, I just absolutely cannot stand someone getting up that high and just belting it out. Like, it's just like, oh. And then the other one is in more like screamo kind of genres, which I know generally you don't like, with some exceptions. And I don't know about you, but I feel like you're not really into that either.
Yeah, I guess it's a tonal thing.
And that's the thing for me. I would rather listen to that sort of screaming as opposed to punk because of the tone of it.
Right.
So I don't like have an issue with how it is, but the screaming in like heavy metal or prog or other sorts of genres is like, and it's not everyone, but like in general, I prefer that tone to the punk screaming.
I think because it's so refined in kind of heavy metal and screamo, that's what I don't like about it.
You like the raw nature.
And I like the raw nature, and this is full of it. Like, it's...
Yeah.
You know, pick an out-of-tune melody. Pick a melody that's in tune the whole way. You can't. Like, this... It's out of tune, it's just raw, and...
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Just angry young men yelling at you.
More or less. But it's... I think that emotion gives it... like, there's the... I don't know, I find it quite uplifting and upbeat. There's just this kind of expression of energy and emotion, and it's so upbeat and happy and kind of celebratory. That's how I hear this sort of, yeah.